Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out, thanks and appreciation to Justin Duso, Joseph Pizarro, Samson, Maris, Harry Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, Chris Hillman, NA Literalist, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, Nathan Thompson, The Real Gabster, Windrider, Liam Nedrick, Owen Jennisons, Abraham Mohammed, Dave Rakia Gafford, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, Felix Hung, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, Kirsten Smith, Alexander Main, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I'll pass you over to the dulcet tones of whoever is in Discord or G+, so you can enjoy their conversation while I set up for today's live show.
Hey, where are you from in England, mate? Whereabouts are you from in England?
Originally, or where do I live?
Either. Just trying to fucking touch base with you, you know?
I'm originally from Birmingham, and now I live in Warwickshire.
All right, I know Birmingham, Warwickshire. I can't picture where Warwickshire is.
Near Stratford-upon-Avon, Shakespeare country.
Oh, yes, M6. My auntie lives there. Stoke-on-Trent.
Not really.
Oh.
But don't worry, it's all good.
Sorry,
hey guys,
I live in the civilized part of England, Twickenham.
Oh, very nice.
Hey,
Very nice. Expensive.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, you gotta tweak the ham.
It is expensive, yeah. So, you don't only talk about flat earth stuff right on here?
On this show we do. Or I try to. In the pre-show and after show I don't mind so much.
Yeah,
on the live show,
right.
Yeah, I try and keep it exclusively about that subject, hence the title, Flat Earth Debate.
Yeah.
You stay away from politics and all that other nonsense and talk about race cars.
I do. Neil tries to weasel it in all the time.
Well, you know the people that are flat earthers, they're basically from the truther community, aren't they?
Say that again, the beginning part. The people who are or aren't.
Oh.
I don't consider myself part of the truther community. I interviewed lots of people who were to find out what was what with them. But no, I wouldn't consider myself part of that community. Sorry.
Oh. No, I just presumed.
I'm sure many do, but I don't.
Uh-huh.
Probably depends what you mean with truther community.
It's pretty self-explanatory, no?
Well, what the opposing side would call...
many things. Flat Earth, that's it.
I just see truther community as being poisoned by the opposition calling it a conspiracy theorist.
It's one and the same, right?
There you go. Well, no, I don't consider anything I discuss here to be in any way, shape or form conspiratorial. Literally nothing. You name something that I've discussed on the show that's conspiratorial in nature. Quite the opposite. I oppose that. So when people are like, oh, there's a hidden hand, and it's like, no, you programmed yourself with this stuff. No hidden hand. No man behind the curtain. I'm sure there is, but can you prove it? Can you show it? Sorry, go on.
This is the first time I've spoken to you like you.
I just think it is what it is. Where people see a hidden hand, I see people who are what they say they are, representatives and things like that. You know, they lay it out in their own titles, what they're doing and what they are. Well, some people pay that attention and some people see them as the arbiters of their world, and I don't. But the people who go into the rabbit holes of those stories that are from the authorities, we discussed this a couple of days ago, I just don't think it's any. I just don't think it's relevant. I don't think it's important. I think personally, I've progressed past that. I don't have a TV. I'm hardly ever aware of what's going on because I just see it all as poison. Yeah, you can dig down into the rabbit holes of these things. Politics a couple of days ago is what people wanted to go through, and I just quickly went through it and went, what are they? Representatives, watching this play out, and all these words that we use to describe precisely what's happening. It's like, be a bit more self-aware about what the language you're using is and what it means, and then you'll be a bit less concerned about it. But there we go. Most people aren't like that. Most people want to be conspiratorial. They want some hidden dark hand to be behind everything that's going wrong. Well, okay. In some instances there are, but it's pretty overt what they're after.
So you don't vote?
No, I've never voted.
Because you think there's no real choice?
Because I see it as a pointless exercise. Who's going to represent me according to them? Well, no, they are the arbiters of authorship. And that's it. Well, whether or not I want to pay attention to the stories of the day, I am subject to the law of the land. I've got no choice in that. And do I have any say in it? Well, potentially. Anthony Riley's looked into how you could potentially look into altering laws when they are coming into effect. But in the case of the most recent laws that were ushered in, January, or it might have even been December 2019, no one was even aware of them.
Legislation.
Say again?
Legislation, you mean new legislation?
Yeah, you can have some influence over it as it's happening. And, once it's happened, you've got nigh on no chance. I mean, I only know this from Anthony looking into trying to break his way into the education system. Unless there's actually a law change happening, you've got no chance. But once the law change has happened, that's it.
Can I give an example?
Sure.
California, they had a vote to see if they would accept same-sex marriage. And the population of California, over 70% said no. It's between a man and a woman. So it failed. So they regathered and did it again. And this time, it failed by over 70%. Almost the same margin, if not more. So what they did, they shopped it to a judge. And the judge said it was racist, blah, 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 and overturned the will of the people. Now, you have the judicial system that doesn't make laws, and you got the legislative branch that does. And for whatever reason, the will of the people was discarded, and the judge overturned the will of the people, and now it's law, which is illegal in California. But look, people voted, people stated, and they still didn't happen.
Most of these things are designed to exercise a certain degree of control over the people who partake in them. That's their purpose, as far as I can ascertain. And if you don't partake, you're not part of the magic trick. So that's my
You have
view.
no desire to bring about change. Just apathy. You've accepted apathy, Nate.
You could call it apathetic, yeah?
Yeah, it's all right. You're not alone, dude. It's the country that we live in, right?
Exactly. I am apathetic to the
Apathy,
system.
dude.
It's a good word.
You're not alone, dude. You're not alone, dude. It's why it just is, right? It just is, man. Because
It's how much cognitively you let it affect you. Yeah, some things you have to adjust to. So, for instance, the law changes, COVID Act 2020. Once I read that, I understood what it meant, and I accepted it.
Oh, what about on ethically? What about on an ethical level, like?
Yeah, I could argue about it all day on unethical grounds. Yeah, very easily, as is everybody else, right? That's all they've done.
Hold on, Nate. Ethically, we should try to bring about change.
Yeah, but are you in charge of change? I mean, this is just going to get into people thinking that I just don't give a shit, and the reality is I don't. So maybe this is a conversation best for someone else and not me.
Nate, no one's believing you. You do give a shit.
I don't.
Could I say something to cheer up the moment?
Go on. He needs it.
Well, the only people that ever changed the world believed they could. So, if you want to change the world, you got to believe you can first.
My world has changed.
Correct.
Yeah. So
Correct.
my world was spinning ball in a vacuum. Now it isn't. Now it's something very different to that. I've got a new appreciation of what the world is.
Hey, you know something? Nate, you could be the catalyst for change, or just sow the seeds of doubt. You don't have to see the change that you create. What you need to do is sow the seeds of doubt.
Do you want that? I don't care
You
either
want that
way.
too.
So if everyone tomorrow realised the world was flat, I might be a little bit disappointed because my show would lose all longevity. So from that, that might sound really selfish, but by the same token, I don't think it's going to change in the next 10 years. I just don't see that. So yeah, I could be the catalyst to people having a seed of doubt about the system that they're living in. If one lie is exposed as overt, then you can't trust the people who are giving you those stories. But that's all they ever were, right? It's just stories. Well, what's the harm in that? Either you appreciate they're just stories or you don't. If you don't, well, then more for you. If you do, you don't care so much like me. You just go, it's just a story.
Yeah, but I said this a while ago. Down the road, I don't know when it's going to happen, maybe 10 years from now, this show and what's been discussed on this show is going to be big. I'm telling you.
I'm sure the people around Robotham said the same.
No.
It's going to be big.
Totally different, Nathan. Totally different.
Yeah, I don't
In
think
10 years from now-
Robotham had Flatzoid in South Africa and people all over the world knowing what he was doing.
Exactly.
I just think in 10 years from now, to just be a normie. We'll just be a normie as you're flat earth, that's all. You'll be the weirdo if you think it's flat earth.
Like that with any change, isn't it? It's violently opposed, ridiculed, and then accepted as being obvious to everybody. So yeah, they may reach a point where the violent opposition to this subject drops, and people around us just go, "Well, yeah, of course we all knew, really." And then eventually, the idea of heliocentrism will be, I don't know. I hate doing this, divining what might happen.
We told you
Maybe
it
we
was
should
a
watch it.
model.
Maybe we should watch The Simpsons. They always tell the future.
Hey, Nate, how did you get to this subject?
How did I get to it? I just happened to have a Math Powerland video playing in the background when I was mulling around at about 3 a.m.
And tell us what you heard, Nathan.
He just said flat Earth. That's it. He just said flat Earth. He just didn't say it in the way it's normally said. So prior to that, I'd watched Vsauce, and he was talking all about flat Earth. And it didn't even occur to me to consider it as an outlook because of the way it was presented, entirely intentional. In other words, when he was talking about it, it's being talked in a way that's derogatory or absurd. Math Powerland just had a tone in his voice that wasn't that, and it caught my attention in such a way that I went and woke my wife up, and I'm like, the world's flat.
No, but when did he discuss that about
What did you
that
miss to say?
we
What
as
did you miss to
people will
say?
never see the Earth as a sphere?
2012,
Was that later on?
2012 or something around that time. He did a stand-up show, which did make its way onto YouTube eventually, but with him doing a skit called Photo or Painting, and he holds up or has a slide, I can't remember, it's a long time ago I watched this, but he has a picture presented to the audience of what looks like a planet, and he describes it as a newly discovered planet, and then he points out that the picture's actually just his jeans with a circular cutout around them, just some paint splotches on his jeans or something like that. It's like, so, you're easily deceived into believing that if you've got black around a circularly coloured item, that's a planet. And then he puts up the series of images with a similar theme and asks the audience, is this a photograph or is this a painting? Now, when he gets to the picture of Earth, he's painted that particular image. So he asks the audience, photo or painting, and then points out that he painted it. And then he highlights to the audience that they've never had that perspective. They've never seen the Earth from space. And they never will. It's the second law of thermodynamics violation, sky vacuum, that doesn't exist because we wouldn't have any gas to breathe. Now, while he didn't point that out, he certainly pointed out that you've never had that vantage point. All you've got is pictures. And what are pictures? Well, his way of making that more clear, because pictures is a very vague term, is to juxtapose it with a painting, a literal painting, something physically constructed by hand by a person. And in this instance, that was him. Now, obviously, that wasn't the video I watched. I just watched, I can't even remember which video it was. You know, it was just a video of him out and about. I can't remember what he was doing. I think he was on a beach or something. I can't remember. But he was just talking about the subject. He said the words flat earth, and suddenly it set off something in my mind that all of the times I'd been on aeroplanes looking down at the ground going, I wish I could go higher to see curve, suddenly that cognition switched. There was a little gear change. Instead of me appreciating that I wanted, as a heliocentrist, to go higher to see the curve I couldn't see, understanding that, according to their rhetoric, which is wrong, you couldn't see it from those altitudes, even though you should, based on their maths. But I was under the impression you shouldn't see it from that altitude, therefore you'd have to go higher. I thought, I wish I could see it curving. I wish I could see Earth as a sphere. Now, the reality of that in my mind is actually the reverse. I'm looking at it going, look how flat it is. Look how lacking it is in sphericity. Well, at that moment, I hadn't appreciated that there's a world outlook that I haven't ever been exposed to. And if I have been exposed to it, it's been under the subject of ridicule, rather than Matt Powerland's way of portraying it, which was obviously the antithesis of that. It wasn't portrayed in ridicule. So that just woke me up in an instant. It was very, very short.
Yeah, I seen those too. Those are very good. So when you said that the other day, it really hit me because I've heard it before, but the way you said it, and I thought about it, and I was like, wow, sure, I'm never going to see the Earth from that vantage point ever because it's impossible anyway. But
so you're telling me I'm not going to be able to become a Jedi one day?
Space isn't real, so no. The Force is also not real. The Force in their, juxtaposition between Star Wars and heliocentric system, they've got a Force in both, haven't they? Both of them aren't real.
Yeah, I named my youngest son Jedediah because the first four letters were J-E-D-I.
Heartbreaking. As I say, it's not too late to put him up for adoption.
Hey, Flatroid, what time will you post your debate tonight for us if we're able to come on? Come on.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined in G+ by Neil, 10th Man, Flatzoid, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hello.
Hey, happy Wednesday.
Hola.
Hola. Get down. Any
Muy
evidence,
bien.
of, any evidence of a physical, geometric, sphere edge, horizon formerly known as Earth curve?
Not from Harbor Island Drive in San Diego.
Well, spheres don't have edges, so they won't be able to have their curve.
Well, if you're going to use a tangent to describe the horizon, you need to have a straight line to the horizon, right?
Yeah, you need
To a curve?
you need the horizon to be a tangent point. That's correct. Physical tangent point with a straight line drawn to it. That's right.
Well, you can't refract that.
As soon as you refract it, you've no longer got a tangent. So a tangent's a straight line. Refracted means deviated from straight. The antithesis of a tangent.
So no geometry.
No, if the light to the tangent point is refracted, bent, then you don't have geometry. You can't perform it, you can't derive R values with it, because you can't see it. Their response from the globe side. It only exists in the maths. That would be geometry. Earth curve only exists in Earth curve maths. The horizon's not physical.
Well, this is where they say a level is curved.
That's nonsense.
Of course it is. But that's all they got left, right?
What, double-speak nonsense? Violating the
Yeah.
law of non-contradiction.
Yep. Double speak.
And don't forget, they hold each other's hands. And sing Kumbaya.
I mean they held each other's hands. What?
The Globers, they have no argument, so they have to hold each other's hands and sing Kumbaya and claim victory, even though they lost.
I see.
Do you think they need somebody to repeat what their actual claim about the horizon is, or do they know it?
They're caught in a paradox now, so 50%, a bit like with the Coriolis effect, they're going to either 50% of the time tell you that we have a physical geometric sphere edge horizon blocking things in the distance calculable in Earth curve geometry based on an R value they derive from a physical horizon, until you point out that you've got this image, we only need one, it's a black swan, where you demonstrate that the horizon is not physical, is beyond the capabilities of physical geometry, and at that moment they can either decry their own model, say, we don't see Earth curve geometry, that would be Earth curve. Or they can say, yeah, we do see it, I just don't have an explanation for why it would be in a different position. Maybe the Earth blew up in size that day, the rock that they claim it is flying through a sky vacuum. So they die by one way or the other. They either die by having no geometry to derive with a refracted horizon, or having to explain something that's unexplainable. That would be the black swan image, because they do claim they've got a physical geometric sphere edge for a horizon. They're going to die either way. It doesn't make any difference which.
Don't you find it weird that the horizon should have been 1.22, just like the diffraction limit?
Yeah, that's been covered by a few people mathematically more literate than I. So life is short, and even the other day I got, I think it was like $25 super chat. Who was it from? Oh God, I can't remember who it's from now. Anyone remember who it was from? Flat Earth Data. Sorry, it was Flat Earth Data. So Flat Earth Data pointed exactly that out, that in the Rayleigh criterion you've got 1.22. Maybe a coincidence, broken down in terms of... Adam's done it as well, comparing perspective with perspective hijacking geometry and how close they are to a distance, to a point. If hijacked perspective is your point, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Perfect, yeah.
Any evidence?
Well, I think that's the...
Go on.
I think that's the biggest tell, because everybody knows perspective. Everyone sees things getting smaller with a distance. The mountain looks smaller than the telephone pole in front of you because it's that much further out there in front of the telephone pole. So everyone knows perspective, but when it comes to this subject, the ballers want to disregard it from every part of their assessment of the horizon and things and Earth curve and boats and buildings.
Well, to be fair,
Yes.
a lot of people that have not very good eyesight all their life, they tend to kind of get better at geometry. And then they have trouble really figuring out, like, even understanding perspective, because I don't know, they couldn't see that far, all that, and that just makes it less clear to them, less natural to understand these things also. And then if they learn a lot about geometry all the time and they drown in it, it's very tough to probably keep it apart for them.
But you don't need to know. But you don't need anything about geometry to know that on the long stretch of a highway, as you're going towards a mountain, it's getting bigger and bigger as you get closer to it. You don't need any geometry for that.
Yeah, the basics of that, you get that. Sure, the basics are doable, but the more complexities and diffraction and the Aries disk, that's really complicated for some people, because they just don't. They have trouble focusing on actually testing it with their own eyes. Like,
what I realized they can't visualize.
Right.
Literally just pen on paper and that's it to them.
Well, their maths doesn't involve visualization. It turns the view side on, so it's no longer representative of what you actually see. You're looking at the side of your own head and a target that doesn't change size with distance. It has an actual size assigned to it, feet or meters. And if it's a 10-foot wall, it doesn't matter if you draw a line with you on the left-hand side of the page and the target on the right-hand side of the page, marked up as 6 foot and 10 foot for the man and wall respectively. You can draw a line between the two and write the number 1 million on it, and then miles next to it, and say, there you go, line of sight. Because the 10-foot wall is still a 10-foot wall in those maths at 1,000,000 miles. And if you can draw a line between them, it should be visible, right? Well, no, it's beyond the diffraction limit. It's got too small to see. Completely ignored if you turn the view side on and put the side of your own head in the view and keep the target the same size regardless of its distance. That's the biggest tell. The curve maths has targets that don't change with distance. Strictly accurate? Well, yeah, they're always going to be an actual size of 10 foot. But in optical terms, it will reduce with distance and be completely ignored in curve maths and called, what's it called again? What do they call that effect in curve maths? Oh yeah, Earth curve is what they call it in curve maths, by ignoring the fact that things get smaller with distance. That's the diffraction limit. Perspective.
It's actually funny that they want to play with orthographic view and then they want to claim refraction in the same breath.
Yeah, well their refraction is just a mathematical bending of a line they're drawing between target and observer when the target doesn't change in size. Its actual size will always remain the same in those mathematics, so they're just drawing a bent line based on a presupposed spherical line beneath the feet of the observer, and then saying light will bend at that. Well no, your geometry with a line drawn in maths that doesn't have angles to anything ever, that is what you'll call refraction. Actually, standard, aka terrestrial refraction, 7/6 of a radius value, they can't get. Because they can't derive it, because the horizon's not physical, it's not a tangent point. We wouldn't expect to see the geometric horizon, according to them.
I feel like you may have skipped over that Arwen just called anybody that sees Earth curve blind.
He was actually attacking short-sighted people. So if this, I was going to say as a joke, if the short-sighted people have got a union, don't come to me, go to Arwen.
What the fuck? No, I was just giving an excuse that, hey, for some people it is really tough because they're not so used to basically having a mental viewpoint out of their eyes as much, and rather at looking at paper, looking at screens, because they have less trouble interfacing with that mentally. And so they get so used to that it becomes really easy to reify that, to basically look at anything from that inside perspective instead of actually looking through your eyes, Yeah,
you're comparing what you'd see optically with what you can conceptualize based on things like an orthographic side-on view where you see your side of your own head. So it's the difference between conceptualization and actual optics, reality versus concepts. The globe being a concept, optics and the diffraction limit being our reality.
Yep. So I wasn't attacking them. I was just pointing out there are people that will have more trouble with this than you and me, for example.
Fundies. Yeah, we know.
No, well, they might risk more being stuck in the fundy position because of that, because their senses can't help them figuring it out so much, right? So the obstacle becomes bigger. That's all.
You think it's that, or do you think they're just trying to defend the model so bad that they don't want to see it?
Well, they're religious. They've got a religious faith in this model that they've reified. Arwen's just saying once you get to the point where you're continually conceptualizing stuff and then putting it into your reality, that becomes a habit that's difficult to break when you compare it to actual optics that in their world have only ever been compared to orthographic views and things of that nature. So that it's required that you conceptualize how a model works when comparing it to something optical. Well, that's a conceptualization that doesn't make what you're doing or the maths that you're performing your reality. But if you're stuck in that processing method, you're going to struggle to say, well, this is how optics actually work, because that's actually reality as opposed to models and religion, which is what they exercise, a religious faith in a model.
Exactly.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to attack Arwen. I was trying to make a joke. Sorry.
Well, no, it's
Nobody
fine.
thought you were. And we missed the joke if there was one.
Only blind people see Earth curve.
Oh, I see. Yeah, right.
Oh,
And I
that
took
way,
it away from the blind bit. Yeah, you're not going to see anything. I get it. Hardy ha. Ha ha ha.
Right, yeah, you can only see the curve in your head. That's what it comes down to.
Okay, we could pull that apart as well, but
That's
we
their
won't.
lenses.
Let's move on. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
No, Nathan, you shouldn't expect to see drift.
You would if you're claiming there's Coriolis drift.
Yeah.
You
Well,
don't
there is a-
understand.
Gases are not susceptible to momentum, so they could never, under any circumstance, move in lockstep with any spinning body, no matter how slow. They might get dragged, but they will never reach full rotation, basically. I figured this out.
It's a first law of thermodynamics violation, that assertion, actually. So to assert that, let's say you've got little fins, you count the globe Earth turning conceptually as being capable of dragging the atmosphere along with it as it turns, right? Well, let's pretend that all of the roughness of the ground below, even though it's insignificant by comparison to the magnitude of their sphere, but nevertheless, let's pretend they're like little fins dragging the air along. Well, for that air to be continually going at the same rate as the ground beneath it, as you get higher, the distance that it has to travel increases, so the circumference, the journey, will be greater the higher you go in terms of the gas. Therefore, the velocity of that gas, to keep up with the Earth's spin beneath, would increase. Therefore, a violation of the first law of thermodynamics. So it's absurd. The same applies when they say a helicopter goes up and continues in lockstep. Well, every time it goes up another foot, it's having to traverse a longer distance. Therefore, it's going to have to increase its momentum versus the speed of the claim to be spinning Earth beneath it. Again, a first law of thermodynamics violation. So their absurd notion that flies in the face of having drift, that's things drifting apart from you at 15 degrees an hour. When they have us put it to them that we don't see that, nothing's drifting away from us at 15 degrees an hour, they start to justify a first law of thermodynamics violation with a begging the question fallacy. I.e., I assume Earth spins. I'm not going to demonstrate 15 degrees drift to prove it. I'm going to assume it. And then say the reason we don't see drift is because everything's travelling together, violating the first law of thermodynamics, and not giving us 15 degrees an hour drift. Then you go into this... Go on.
But how they do it is by mistakenly comparing, surprise, surprise, gas to solids and liquids, which are viable to momentum. That means that if in a rotatory situation, whatever it is, how you're going to do it doesn't really matter. Eventually, it will start to lockstep move with the situation, right? It gets dragged and then it actually starts to, because of the momentum, move with it. Well, gas may get dragged because of the pressure differential that the moving object will cause locally. It will move slightly, but it does not reach a lockstep situation ever because it is not susceptible to momentum. So the loose parts will always just be responding to the pressure differentials and not finding a momentum in order to ever, at any point ever, no matter how long, reach full lockstep motion with the rotating things.
Yeah, you're spot on, but by the same token, you've also got a claim that there's supposed to be things drifting apart as Earth rotates underneath. That's Coriolis drift. And to have to argue with them about how things cannot be in lockstep is to argue with them about their decrying their own claim. So you're arguing with them saying, oh, no, we can't have Earth in lockstep with the atmosphere. It's like, why argue about it? So no drift then from now on. Thanks, Dan. No drift, reference frames ruined, stuff moving together. Well, that doesn't give you 15 degrees an hour drift.
Well, we do have the sun moving at 15 degrees an hour, but what they do is say that that optical visual of the movement is not the sun moving, but the Earth moving that causes that. Well, and you've said, well, great. Well, then if the Earth is rotating underneath the sun, it's got to rotate underneath anything that's not attached to the Earth as well. And this is where the examples of the drone and the helicopters and everything else destroys that the Earth is moving.
Hey, Chris.
Let's all remember our
Hey,
good
Chocolate.
friend Ed told us that the movement of the sun is irrelevant to the rotation of the Earth.
Yeah, they
Thanks,
don't
Ed.
know they don't know when they're claiming Coriolis. You're correct. Hey, Chocolate. Hey, Chris.
Special Ed.
Good morning. What's going on, guys?
Hey, Chocolate.
Hey, Chris. Can we hear you? No sound. No sound. Let's move on with housekeeping.
Oh, wait, Chris Berry.
It's just not got his mic sorted. We'll hopefully either drop in or drop out or fix his mic or whatever. But I haven't heard from him.
Check.
Yeah, there we go.
Can hear you.
We hear you.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. Every once in a while, Google resets my mic. I don't get it. But yeah, so I was just listening this morning. I was up a little early. I had to take my kids to school. And I thought I'd share a quick story because ironically, yesterday I was having this exact conversation on Jose's. Now I haven't joined Jose's in at least 3 weeks, maybe a month. I've just been busy with things, right? And there was this new guy on I've never heard of called Glass Monster. And this guy was talking about how he had built an interferometer ring laser gyro. And I mean, clearly this guy was like intellectually smart, right? Probably like high IQ, a little bit on the autistic spectrum, I could tell. Anyways, long story short, we get to a point where he's saying, look, there's only one way that the interferometer is picking up motion, or like it's designed to pick up motion. So that's what it's got to be, right? Like when you spin it with your hand, it picks up motion. And when you leave it flat, when you leave it on the table, it's picking up 15 degrees of motion. And I said, well, if that's the case, I said, then if you're hovering in a helicopter, you should, experience 15-degree drift. And he said, oh, come on, that's not going to happen because the atmosphere moves with the Earth and it pushes the helicopter along. And I said, so your argument for Earth spin is lack of Coriolis and thus lack of Earth spin.
Wow.
Hold on. What was the response?
They hadn't. I mean, they just keep going back to the ring laser. They say, oh, but the ring laser proves it. We don't need the helicopter. The ring laser proves it. And I kept saying, well, no, then you would experience it in a helicopter or an airplane or a hovering drone. You would experience the drift. And they keep saying, oh, we don't experience drift because the atmosphere pushes it along, which we know is total bullcrap.
Yeah, they want to claim
Selective Coriolis effect.
They want to claim
So
Earth.
it proves what he just negated by saying that the atmosphere and Earth are moving together. Wow.
Yeah, single reference frame. So the claim is we've got Coriolis effect. Now, it's parroted off by Neil deGrasse Tyson. Earth turns underneath the football. You observe the ball seem to curve through the goal because the goal moved under the ball. That's Neil deGrasse Tyson's claim of Coriolis. Same claim as Earth and Sun and gyroscope. Well, that's a claim of two separate reference frames, one turning underneath the other. And they claim it. We've got a claim that Earth turns under the gyro at 15 degrees an hour. So if Earth turns under the gyro and we've got two separate reference frames, that will cause a ball to drift through a goal, exactly as asserted by Neil deGrasse Tyson. Two reference frames. Let's just drop a quote in at this stage. You and your reference frames have been ruined. End quote. Simon Dan. Now those reference frames, plural, two of them, are required to have drift. That's a helicopter taking off and you turning underneath it. Likewise, comparably, on a roundabout, you have a drone. And you and the drone are spinning around on the roundabout, and then you launch the drone. It's no longer attached to the roundabout, and you seem to go towards it, and then fly, and then move away from it, and then come towards it and move away from it. Why? Well, because you're turning underneath it on the roundabout while it hovers. That's Coriolis effect. You seeming to see it moving when it's actually hovering, because you're turning underneath. It's claimed Earth does that. It's claimed Earth turns under things not attached, like footballs and snipers' bullets, and gyroscopes. So two reference frames, one thing drifting away from the other. Well, that would mean that a helicopter would take off on the equator, and you'd turn underneath it to see it drifting away. at 1,000 miles an hour. And obviously this doesn't happen. We point out that we're not turning underneath anything to see anything drift away at 15 degrees an hour, and they say we wouldn't expect to see drift, they're travelling together, even when they're intellectually, apparently, smart. Well, if you're smart, you appreciate that either we've got Coriolis drift or we haven't. And if you're going to say we've got it in the form of a gyro, a pendulum, and a football, and a sniper's shot, then you've got it in the form of aeroplanes, drones, helicopters, balloons, or anything else that leaves the claim to be spinning reference frame. And we don't see that effect. They only utilise things that are in the air for a couple of seconds, because it would be patently obvious if they used a hot air balloon going up and landing in a different country as Earth turned underneath it, and that would give you the Coriolis effect from the ground they claim we see. That would be things from the ground seeming to move because you're turning underneath them, like the drone on the roundabout. Well, that doesn't happen. It would happen on Earth. You'd launch a drone off Earth and you'd turn underneath it, like on the roundabout, to have Coriolis drift. And as soon as you point that out, they say, we wouldn't expect drift. What, you wouldn't expect your claim proof of a spinning Earth with 15 degrees an hour drift, Coriolis effect, things drifting away? We wouldn't expect to see that. What's that, Dan? You and your reference frames are ruined because we point out it doesn't happen. Well, we're not claiming any reference frames, but they are. Drift, 15 degrees of it, Earth turning underneath. Just doesn't happen. Anything to add, Chris?
No, I just thought it was funny, right? I mean, because you guys harp on it all the time, and it happened to me like in real life, and it was just funny because I said I hope that the irony isn't being lost on everyone, which, you know, I was really speaking towards, you know, the app, you know, the ether, so to speak, like the internets and who was listening, not the panel. The panel just, they keep saying the same stuff. They repeat, you know, watch, rinse, and repeat and hope that it sticks. But it's definitely ironic. So that was it.
Yeah,
it's insane how they don't even recognize their own doublespeak, isn't it?
Yeah, they don't recognise it. We've got a drift, 15 degrees, Earth's turning under the gyro. So second reference frame, Earth's turning under the gyro. Right, okay. So Earth's turning underneath drones. No, we wouldn't expect 15 degrees an hour drift. Earth and atmosphere travel together. I assume Earth's travelling, and I've got no proof of it because nothing's drifting. What's wrong with you? Well, you've just said we've got drift. That's Earth turning underneath a gyro or a pendulum or a bullet or a football. That's what it is. It's 15 degrees an hour as stuff drifts away from me. And you're saying I wouldn't expect to see it. Well, it's your bloody claim.
You've just mentioned 2 projectiles, haven't you, Nathan?
That's correct. They were all projectiles. Everything that's claimed...
No, a helicopter's not a projectile.
Is it not?
No.
What's that got to do with you turning underneath it to see it drift away?
That's all I'm going to say, Nathan.
Sorry, what's this non sequitur got to do with a claim that Earth turns underneath at 15 degrees an hour? That would cause me to observe the helicopter, a projectile, drifting away from me at 1,000 miles an hour on the equator. Whether or not you define it as a projectile is a non sequitur to the point of whether or not we see Earth turning underneath it, or whether I get fundy muted when I point out that your non sequitur doesn't overcome the problem of us not seeing anything drifting away from us. Drones don't drift away at 1,000 miles an hour on the equator. Neither do bullets or balls or anything else for that matter, because we'd notice, and we don't. Maybe you'd like to use the old Globed tactic of telling us how we wouldn't expect to see 15 degrees an hour drift because you assume Earth and atmosphere travel together, violating the first law of thermodynamics. Maybe you'd like to go down that road, or just point out that you don't like my word projectile.
I'm not going to comment further.
What, you're not going to debate about Earth not turning underneath drones, not giving us 15 degrees an hour drift? What a shock. You just want to point out that I've used the wrong word. Wow, that's a brilliant win. Sit down, shut up.
It is a win.
Sit down, shut up. You have nothing to offer. You're not defending the claim that Earth turns underneath at 15 degrees an hour, causing drones to fly away from us at 1,000 miles an hour on the equator. You're not defending that. You've got nothing more to add, so sit down, shut up, don't reply. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Oh, you moved on from that really quickly, didn't you?
He doesn't like the rules I make here, do you? Last chance. Shut up or I'll kick you out. My rules. Shut up. You have nothing. Distance to the sun. Any evidence thereof?
It's over there. No, not the distance.
No distance proof.
I want to talk about Earth rotation more.
Okay, go on then. No worries. Okay.
Oh, I was just calling you bluff there. You didn't kick me.
So you're a liar. You don't want to talk about Earth's rotation. You are, in fact, a liar.
Yeah, that was a test. You failed.
A test. You're testing me. Get out. You're not here to test me, especially when you lie about having evidence for something that is claimed to happen and does not. And you don't respond to anything other than criticise a piece of verbiage. Pathetic.
This is the best they got.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
No, none whatsoever.
No,
Purification fallacy.
no, because yeah, I mean you can't actually scientifically validate a concept.
Any signs of pathetic globe head tactics?
Every day.
It's got worse since 2017. Progressively.
Seriously, it really has. This is terrible, Vacuum. And all you guys like him? What's wrong with you guys? This is the best you got.
Even the people
The
that
worst they got is the best they got.
even the people they think are defending the claim pass the buck. You summed it up beautifully yesterday when you talked about leapfrogging.
Me?
No, chocolate.
Oh, okay.
What did I say?
You got Simon Dan saying you and your reference frames are ruined, and the only claim of reference frames is from the globe side, and they absolutely require them, so they definitely don't need them being ruined. We ask him, what the hell are you talking about? We don't have any. You mean you and your reference frames are ruined? Response from Dan. You don't know what diffraction is. Here's a debate of you on a neutral platform without what's claimed to be my only defense, the mute button, up against somebody who won't listen to a word I've said and constantly fundy mutes me. That's conspiracy cats. So the subject on the table from Dan in response to whose reference frames are ruined is you don't understand diffraction. So we move on to conspiracy cats. Conspiracy cats labours the point that I don't understand diffraction. I say, okay, let's talk about diffraction. What's diffraction? Why is this reduction in angular size to a limited point not included when you compare to optical images with Earth curve geometry and orthographic view, actual sizes that don't change with distance? That's diffraction. Let's talk about it. What's the response? Oh, Anthony has juxtaposed gravity not being a force, but you can think about it being a force, with conspiracy cats not being a paedophile, but you can think about him being a paedophile. So that juxtaposition is what he wants to talk about. So it's like, why not actually talk about the thing you've brought up? You've brought up diffraction. Far from me suddenly going, oh no, they've caught me out. I'm going, yeah, let's talk about it. The fact that I've detailed it for about 3 straight years prior to that discussion with conspiracy cats, with his fundy mute button in full effect, not willing to listen to a fairly elongated description of the Rayleigh criterion and the diffraction limit at the horizon, the point where things vanish, which requires a lengthy explanation. Given that it would give me about 6 seconds before it'd interrupt me, I gave up. But I still definitely do want to talk about diffraction. And so that's where we're at. Conspiracy Cats has brought up diffraction. I want to talk about it. Are we going to talk about it, or are we going to talk about Anthony and some personal issue he's got that he's protesting far too much about, in my honest opinion? Nevertheless, his protestations about this particular situation with Anthony are irrelevant to the fact he has brought up diffraction, and I now absolutely want to talk about it. Leapfrogging. Pass the buck. Move the reference frame.
Pretty much. Well, they have to leave it at that, right? They somehow in their mind have convinced themselves that they've got some sort of a win. So why talk about it more and actually give themselves a real loss? So just keep the illusion of the win, keep the discussion out of actually happening, right? And then, yeah, you can just proceed to do that forever and ever and ever. See how long that lasts. Why risk actually having the talk that you want to have?
Exactly.
They do that with the lockstep too. They'll say the atmosphere moves lockstep with the Earth's rotation, and then you say, well, then we shouldn't see any deviation. Oh yeah, but the bullet's moving really fast, so we do. Well, how about the football? Is that going as fast as the bullet or a pendulum? Because you say it happens with that too.
Yeah, they're just going to jump back and forth between yes, we should have, and no, we shouldn't have. 15 degrees an hour drift as Earth turns underneath. Moving on. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
No.
Nah.
Well, in their mind, just talking about it over a sandwich, listening to iTunes, looking at a computer screen with digital photography is enough.
Is that what they call science in 2020?
Yeah, that is what they call science in 2020. They being the pseudoscientists that don't adhere to the scientific method, like Dr. Becky in that example. Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
Black Swan.
Yeah, that's tough.
Can't stop. Your geometric horizon has no physicality anymore. And then you try to invoke the R that you just lost to save the R that you just lost. It's great.
Well, every real argument they have, ironically, just presupposes R every time. Whatever excuse they bring up, whatever machination they bring forth, you can almost recognize it by it assuming R in its mechanism.
Indeed.
Like terrestrial refraction.
Any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
Impossible.
It would be an interesting thing to test, if that would be possible.
You could pour bouncy balls into a fish tank like Thunderfoot did and assert that gas, which is unbonded and moves at high speeds in all directions, actually goes down, go boom boom, like solid bonded bouncy balls. Of course, you would end up being utilised from that day till forever as a clown who doesn't understand how gas behaves. Humiliating, considering he's claimed to be a PhD. You'd think he'd know how gas behaves. Thunderfoot is a clown.
Or you could always take some butane out of one container, feed it into a tube, which is another container, create a pressure gradient, and then say how you use no containers to do that. Because that seems legit.
Right. And did you know that he's actually using 3 containers in the demonstration?
What's the third?
It's the one he's in, and we're all in.
Yeah, but good point. Good point. Where did he get the gas pressure from in the first place? That's the point of the question, right? If you're going to assert that you can create gas pressure differentials in some form or another, where'd you get the gas pressure from? Because the whole argument is if the sky is a vacuum, then the gas we breathe would fill the space. We would have no gas pressure, but yet they start with gas pressure. Well, we've got it. Yeah, we know we've got it. How have we got it if the sky is a vacuum? Well, we can have a gradient. Who cares? Where'd you get the gas pressure from in the first place? Spot on, Arwin.
Yep.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
TP wave.
I think that one of the ballers should just go on a quest to find it. Would you guys say?
Yeah, they should all have a little gathering, gather up the dwarfs and the other freaks, and decide who's going to go to the centre of Middle Earth.
Yes.
Maybe to return a ring or something.
Never heard this one. Volcanoes.
I have indeed heard of volcanoes.
Well, wouldn't it
Maybe
be
that's
fascinating if
an
they
example.
could create a device, like a transport device, where they could actually travel through a volcano, like swim in it, and then just explore how deep the lava goes in those things? Wouldn't that be fascinating?
You'd need unobtainium or adamantium or something of that nature.
Or, I don't know, carbide tungsten plating?
Wait,
I don't know.
We can create a tin can that we could send out in like the late 70s that could survive the vacuum of space. Is now in the outer reaches of the solar system. We can create that, but we can't get something to go down even 10 miles. That's a bit of a problem.
Yeah, just stories, eh?
I don't know.
It's a good story.
Well, even in their paradigm, volcanoes are a result of tectonic shifts and the plates rubbing together, creating friction, and has nothing to do with the center of the Earth. So I don't even know why they say that.
Correct. It's people who just assume that their basic knowledge of their geography class in 4th grade, where they showed a picture of it and described it, suddenly meant that volcanoes came from there, not paying attention to the bit where they describe the ring of fire and how they claim there's a tectonic plate ring with all the volcanoes located at the edges of it where they rub together. Precisely correct according to their rhetoric. Now, whether or not that's true, I don't know, but that's what they claim. Nothing to do with the molten iron core, in other words.
You have a
Exactly.
tectonic plate on a ball.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Hey, bro.
So all these plates are basically sort of liquid, or do they all happen to be perfectly spherical shaped and they've solidified in that spherical shape? That would have a lot of consequences for the way they're going to drift on this ball.
You're asking far too many questions. Plates on a ball. That's it.
Those would be tectonic bowls.
Well, it would be like the Humpty Dumpty theory, basically, right? Broken egg shell.
No.
How do the broken egg shells shift on the broken egg?
Look, they just do all right.
Tectonic plates on the ball. I think we're off tangent here. Maybe we can move on.
Well, that's it. If that's the end of that conversation, that concludes housekeeping.
Can we go back to Coriolis for a second? I just wanted to see if I can screen share something real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh crap. Oh.
While he's doing that, I may trim out the bit with the virus, as is on the panel at the moment. So it was show 1272 and 1274. There was like a 2-part discussion about Coriolis. I'm tempted to trim it out. I've been umming and ahhing about it for about a week.
Yeah, please do.
Is that what he's...
I'm ready when you are, Chris.
Yeah. Can you see it?
Yeah.
What I'm screen sharing?
Yeah, yeah.
So that I don't know who that guy is. I know he comes on the panel a lot in Trolls, especially recently. But he was saying something around like, "Oh, well, you're mixing projectiles with powered flight." So I've never heard a good answer for the difference between why a projectile would experience supposed Earth-based Coriolis and a powered flight wouldn't. But essentially, what I have heard, or what I do understand, is they'll say, "Oh, well, because powered flight, you can move in any direction you want. Therefore, you know, you can account for this supposed Coriolis." Even though we all know that you're just flying to where you need to go, and you're not doing anything like that. If you ask a pilot, they don't take Coriolis or curve or spin or anything into account. And so what you can do is, and I've done this in the past, just to check, right? Because I was like, well, this is interesting to see what this would look like as far as a flight path goes. Now this is a flight path from Kansas City to Houston. Now you're just I couldn't get the blue line off. It's driving, so you'll have to ignore that. But the flight path is the red line, right? It's a direct shot from Kansas City to Houston. Now it's due south and just barely slightly to the west. Okay, to let me see, to this side, like right now. I'm exaggerating it, but that's the direction. Is slightly to the west. That's a major problem for the globe model. The globe model says that the Earth goes from west to east this way, correct? To account for Coriolis, you have to, if you're in an airplane and you're a pilot, you have to fly to this point and land here, because the Earth is spinning underneath you this direction. So first of all, flying due south where the red line is wrong, and it has a slight westward direction, which would mean you were, I'm just speculating, miles and miles and miles past, the Earth has moved miles past your landing destination of Houston. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about this. There's no way around it. You would have to fly with an easterly trajectory because the Earth is spinning underneath you. Not only that, but coming from Kansas City to Houston on their supposed model, you've got, I'm just making numbers up, 500 mile per hour speed here, and you've got, again, making stuff up, 600 here. So the Earth is spinning faster, supposedly underneath you, the further south you go, but you're still flying in a straight line to your destination. It falls apart on its face.
It does, but you're slightly inaccurate in your terminology. I'm really sorry to do this, but I am going to correct you because it's important, and I'm hopefully going to rewire your cognition as I do so, because there's a misapprehension in terms of what can or cannot be accounted for when it comes to specifically Coriolis. So in what you said, if you just said Coriolis cause, everything you just said would have been accurate, but you said Coriolis effect. Now, what is the Coriolis effect? It's only observable from the spinning reference frame, Chris. So when you say a plane could, should, or would account for Coriolis effect, that is an incorrect assertion and an impossibility, and I'll explain why. If you have Coriolis effect, and we'll forget your plane for a minute, we'll use a roundabout and a drone. So the drone is hovering above a roundabout you're on, and you're watching the drone seem to come towards you as you rotate towards the drone hovering. You with me so far, Chris?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Well, that is an observational-based effect, and can only be observed if you, the observer, are on something spinning. So in this example, when you say the plane is accounting for the Coriolis effect, that would require the following. A call from ground control to the plane to say, excuse me, flight 3337, you have a man on the ground observing you seem to drift. Please can you correct your path so that it seems to be a straight path from his vantage point? Do you see where I'm going?
No, I do. I know what you're saying, and I agree with you. If you want to use exact terminology, you're correct, and I'm incorrect.
But
so
it's
you're
not that
right.
you're incorrect. No.
Coriolis...
You're not incorrect. You just, when you say Earth would be rotating towards the east under this plane, that would be a cause of the Coriolis effect they claim we see from the ground. So they claim from the ground, you'll look up at this plane and see it seeming to curve as you move towards it on a rotating Earth. That's Coriolis effect. The plane, on the other hand, and its path, its trajectory, is irrelevant of Coriolis effect, because the only effect to be observed is you moving towards it, and that's got nothing to do with its path, only to do with you moving towards it as you rotate underneath it. That's why it's a not actual drift. So if the hovering drone, for the sake of argument, was east of you, and you launched it, well, as you rotated or are claimed to rotate on a globe Earth underneath it, you'd eventually, if it was like 1.5 foot off the ground, you'd eventually smack into it because you rotated underneath it towards it. Yeah? Now that's a real effect of you smacking into it because you're rotating towards it. Now let's change the example. Let's say that the drone is doing loop-de-loops between 1 foot and 3 foot off the ground. Just for the sake of this example, let's pretend it can do an aerobatic maneuver within 2 feet, just for the sake of example. So it's spinning around doing loop-de-loops east of you. And the same exact thing is claimed to happen. You're supposed to be turning towards it. Now, will it change the fact that as you rotate towards it, you're going to hit it? Whether or not it's doing loop-de-loops or not? No. Now, if it's got a path, and it's flying north as you're travelling towards it, then it might be that you intersect its path as you rotate towards it. In other words, you still collide with it. It might be that you have a near miss. But its straight path past you has nothing to do with the observation of it coming towards you, when in reality it's taking a straight path. That's only observational and only from a spinning platform. Therefore, the target, the thing described as in the inertial reference frame, its path is basically irrelevant. It's only an observation from you seeing something seem to do something as you rotate towards it. So when you're with my Earth turning and around as a roundabout would, and you've got your drone doing loop-de-loops, and you're rotating towards it, about to crash into it, in that example, It literally makes absolutely no difference what the path of the drone is. All that matters is that to see the effect, you're moving towards it. So the drone doesn't have to account for the fact that you're coming towards it while it's doing loop-de-loops, and it can't see it either. Because from its point of view, it's just where it is doing what it's doing while something's rotating underneath it. Now that is a claim that Globe Earth makes. Globe Earth claims we rotate underneath stuff to see it seem to drift at 15 degrees an hour. Now the crucial bit is that we have to see stuff drifting away or drifting towards us at a rate of 15 degrees an hour, and it doesn't happen. We don't see anything, in this example a plane, coming towards us or seeming to take a curved path because we're moving towards it while it's in the air. We're never moving towards anything rotating underneath it at 15 degrees an hour, and when we point that out, all we get is a justification for why we don't see drift, when it's claimed we should have it on a turning Earth. 15 degrees an hour as we turn underneath is their claim that we don't observe. We're never drifting towards or away from anything ever on a claim to be turning Earth. We're not turning, we're stationary. Thank you. Other than that, Chris, perfect. Just next time, Coriolis causes. I'm being pedantic because it's important, because if you don't understand the distinction, you can spend all day arguing about what would or wouldn't happen in regards to Coriolis with the path, that's the actual path of the target. Well, it's a not actual effect, a not actual deflection. It's seeming like it's doing something when it's not doing something. Well, that's nothing to do with its actual path, which is what you're detailing. Now, the actual path would be affected by the cause of Coriolis, because the cause of Coriolis is Earth turning underneath that plane. And they claim Earth turns under that plane at 15 degrees an hour. But that would mean that the plane would go off course, because Earth's turning underneath it at 15 degrees an hour, according to their claim, something that simply doesn't happen. And all they'll ever do is justify why it doesn't happen, when it should. So thank you very much, Chris. Perfect, other than causes rather than effects.
No problem. I just wanted this to be a clear rebuttal for those on the panel and watching to the claim that, only projectiles would experience the turn of the Earth underneath them, right? The physical turn underneath them. And that simply is false because of what I just outlined. And I know you get it, so I just want to make sure it's clear to everyone that the pilot would have to account and steer, quote unquote, the plane to the east in order to catch up supposedly with the city that they're flying to that's moving underneath them physically.
Precisely. Exactly correct. If Earth was turning underneath to give us Coriolis deviation observable from the ground as things are moving towards us as we turn underneath them, observable and described as a Coriolis effect, then Earth's turning underneath planes. And they'd have to worry about that. Nothing to do with Coriolis effect, that's merely the observation from the ground of it seeming to do something it isn't. But if Earth's turning underneath a plane, then Earth's turning underneath a plane. And you can be damn sure they need to concern themselves with that, and they don't.
Can I bring up a second illustration for this? Is the Felix Baumgardner 24-mile jump, where he landed was 36 miles from his launch site, and his capsule, as I'm reading here, landed 54 miles away, so a little bit further for the capsule. But if Earth was turning underneath him, as stated by the ballers, at that location, it'd be at 745 miles per hour of Earth turn, and he should have been 1,864 miles to the west, somewhere in the Pacific Ocean. But that didn't happen because Earth is not turning under Felix Baumgardner.
Indeed.
Well,
There's been a couple of super chats and I've missed one of them. I'm hoping it's still scroll-upable to find. If not, I'll have to... Oh, here we go. I can't read it on this screen. Earth's moving at 66,000 miles per hour. Moves 254 miles, open brackets, can't read any of that. Something altitude in 14 seconds. Solar orbit. The ISS is moving at 17,130 miles per hour. Would be 30 minutes to get out of the way. Exclamation mark. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat. I can't read your name. begins with P. Thank you very much for the super chat. There was another one as well, which hopefully I can actually get on my other screen. Let's just do that now. I'll say a big thank you to... Bear with me 1 second. Zelleredden1. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Probably not. I've got level with you. Earth is flat, plain and simple. The gravity of the situation is unbelievable. Just trying to be straight forward with you. To broaden your horizon. We've been lied to. On a global scale. Epic, epic, epic. Thank you very much for the super chat. That was great.
My brother from another mother.
Yeah, I was going to say very Tentman-esque. Excellent.
Yeah, but I was trying to say with your Felix Baumgardner, I don't know if you saw about, I think it's a year or two ago, where a guy actually jumped out of a parachute, out of a plane without a parachute, into an actual target. How do you get that right if Earth is spinning? You have to be very...
Yeah, I saw that big netting that he jumped into. I saw that one.
Yeah. I mean, you have to have quite a lot of confidence knowing you're going to land in that net by jumping out of a plane.
Well,
if you think Earth is spinning away from you...
Did the guy jumping out of the airplane without a parachute, would he be considered powered flight?
Exactly my point. How?
Exactly.
That's what they want. They want you to argue about the projectile all day long. They want to argue about what's happening in the inertial reference frame, because then they can just assume that they've got Earth turning underneath and not having an effect because they're travelling together. In other words, a contradiction in terms, and they just bounce back and forth. That was how Chris opened up his time here, by pointing out exactly that. Somebody asserting Earth turns under a gyro at 15 degrees an hour, second separate reference frame turning underneath. Coriolis deviation, there you go. Proof positive. Well, that means we've got Earth turning underneath. Bullets, footballs, drones, helicopters, aeroplanes, anything not attached. And they go, no, we wouldn't expect to see 15 degrees an hour. It's like, you've just made that claim, you stupid fool.
Well, if Earth and atmosphere were lockstep, why did Felix Baumgardner just not land where he took off from?
We do have wind.
Oh, but they discount that.
Well, yeah, their assertion, which violates the first law of thermodynamics, is also debunked much more simplistically by pointing out that we have multiple directions of surface winds. Flying in the face of that claim, which isn't their claim anyway. Their claim is we see things drifting apart from us at 15 degrees an hour as Earth turns underneath to give us Coriolis effect. That's their actual claim. So debunking this notion of Earth and atmosphere travelling together is just, why bother arguing about it? Just say no drift then. So no 15 degrees an hour, so stuff isn't drifting away from me. They go, no, I assume Earth's travelling with the atmosphere. I don't care what you assume, you're supposed to have drift.
So there's a quick look at the live chat, and there's a guy named Virus who says he handles the panel quite well in our mistaken knowledge of Coriolis effect and the conservation of momentum.
I think it's because I mentioned earlier I'm going to trim out
us all
bit.
about it.
I'm going to trim out that bit. So we've already had that conversation at length over the course of 2 shows with Virus and the after shows. Most people won't have seen them. Subscribe today to my second channel, Nathan Oakley. Link in the info box, where these uncut and after shows typically go out. But that show, I am going to do it, Virus. I'm going to trim it out. I might do it this afternoon. Both of them. I'll do a part 1 and a part 2. And the audience will see exactly. Go on, Flatsoid.
Hopefully Virus will come back sometime and tell me if his tea gets cold or not. I'm still waiting. It's been a week.
Is that Virus?
No, that's Vacuum.
I can say that was someone else.
Oh, that's Vacuum.
Yeah, that's someone else.
Well, maybe Virus's knowledge has grown since that last conversation, and I think he's in the Discord, so maybe he wants to tell us all about it, buddy.
Well, the problem about talking in a vacuum is, nobody hears you.
Yeah, there's no natural vacuum. Hold on, let's just... Chocolate wants a pop at Virus. Let's just see if he's willing. No, he's not willing. Clearly not. He's too busy in the chat. But Chocolate, you'll have to debate him in there. He's not obviously on the show, but not willing to talk to you.
Check your DMs, Chocolate.
Stick with a format that gives him plenty of time to think about the response.
No, I don't think text.
Yeah, keyboard warriors.
I think it's because typically they do want to wait till the after show if they're going to debate at all, because they know it's going to reach a more limited audience. Again, subscribe today to my second channel, link in the info box. But if it goes out in the after show, they're less likely to have more people watching. What is there, 160 odd people watching right now? That's a fair few people to embarrass yourself in front of.
Yeah, unless you.
I was just wondering because, he's in the chat saying he handles the panel quite well. That made me smile. So that's cool. I like the confidence.
Brave soul.
So let's talk about reference frames here in the few minutes we got left. They turned that argument around saying that we don't believe in reference frames when that's not what we're saying. We're saying that the use of them and their reference frames to prove Earth turning doesn't work. There are reference frames.
Yes, there are in existence frames of reference.
We don't believe in the reference frames that supposedly are ours that have been ruined. We don't believe in those.
You don't understand diffraction.
Right. We only got celestial reference frames, light-based.
Pressure gradient.
Go on, Owen.
Big Bang.
Go on, Owen.
Let's just go all over the place, man. Why not?
Go on, go.
We're serious. The stars rotate or appear to rotate. It's light. That's really all it seems to be. So we have celestial or light-based reference frames, just not physical-based reference frames. So,
just not Earth turning underneath.
Right, or anything actually physically turning at all, anywhere.
Listen, I will use my man Ed as my citation. The rotation of Earth is irrelevant to the movement of the sun.
With that, I'll say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley second channel, subscribe today. Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. Another massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Celestial light, because diffraction to celestial light only really applies when something physically is blocking it, because that's the only time that it will be applied to diffraction, because there's no actual distance. It's just like universal light at an angular location.
Angles? Ooh, don't say that word. The Globers don't like angles.
Well, they got them anyway.
Yeah, they don't like angular size, do they? Unless they're looking in the sky, then they can definitely use it, because they're going to need to.
Using sextants obviously proves everything to them. And then you point out, using a sextant, you're actually basing your horizon on 0. So you're basing your whole observation on a flat deck.
Exactly. I never wrapped my head around that till 10th Man went through it in great detail. And then it suddenly made sense. It's like what they're taking as the dip angle is basically their height above their 0 point on a flat plane. But then they're utilising that to derive a geometric physical sphere edge for a horizon tangent point to give them R. You're like, wow, this is a real mess, isn't it? As you'd expect.
Very sharp.
I bet you'd expect it to be a mess, right? We're not on a sphere. So you've got to have a lot of double speak nonsense to get from one to the other. Got to have a lot of presuppositional geodetic mapping done so people can automatically assume it and seem it's okay while they're looking at their flat map. You know what I mean? That's come from a spherical datum. I love it.
Yeah, in all honesty, sometimes you can't really blame them because the model or their quote unquote model leaves them no choice. They have to double speak in order to try to salvage it because it's flat, and they're trying to change what's flat into a ball.
What level means curved? Yeah, they literally say it when they
things
get
like
to that
that.
point. Yeah, so level means curved. That's what they'll tell you. They'll literally tell you something that's a violation of the law of contradiction when they come to describing how they have a curved surface in a flat surface. Well, level is curved. No, it isn't. Enthusiastic after show.
I'm still waiting for Byers to come on and talk to Chocolate. I thought he would.
You haven't moved, Nathan. Can I move you?
Yeah, please. Or I'll do it. Just jump in the after show. Yeah, that's much better. So much more conversation here.
Yeah, the ballers are dying. They got no more will to fight.
I'm out buying a gift. I'll be with you in a minute.
Nils. Witches in a minute.
I was told I have to put my mask up. Nobody near me. Waiting to pay for something. The cashier tells me, "Gotta put your mask up." I swear to God, I'm gonna attack one day.
Well, most people with masks do attack.
No, I'm gonna ask you. Well, why are you compelled to tell me to put my mask up? Are you not here to ring my stuff up?
Hit the wrong. Okay.
I see it quite frequently whenever I go into a shop. Getting moaned at for not wearing masks, which you can take one way or
They
the
really
other, right?
played this up well.
Rebelling against it and don't want to do it. On the other hand, I respect the shopkeepers. You know, if that's their rule, regardless of whether it's dictated to them from above or not, it's their rule. So you have the freedom of choice. You could grow your own bloody vegetables if you don't want to wear a mask and go into their shop.
No, I agree. But the cashiers, I'm saying, are they told when you see somebody with their mask down, tell them to put it up? I don't think they're told that. I understand they're frustrated because they have to wear it every day, but don't fucking break my balls.
Okay. We're all in the same boat. You've got to have a certain degree of empathy for the normies that are terrified. So, you know, I'm not going to tell you what to do, Neil, but like I say, I'm at peace with
I
this.
know. I got no choice. There's nowhere around here. I'm strangled. I have to go to these stores.
I understand.
It does feel crazy though. Like it almost gives you that criminal feeling. I walked into a Target yesterday. Everybody's got a mask on. It makes you feel like, wow, if I walk in without a mask, am I doing? It almost gives you that subconsciousness of I'm doing something wrong when I know I'm not. But it's like, what the hell? Insane, man.
Yeah, conformity and self-policing. Perfect. Like I say, I made my peace with this a long time ago. Many of you were here when I had my little meltdown. Mark, whatever his name is, Taylor, and Cat Earth came on, and we discussed the situation. Do you remember?
Yeah,
of course.
I only did it once. That was all it needed. Got it all off my chest and then made peace with it. That was it. That was, what, February?
It was a long show, I remember.
Yeah. We detailed what was going on, how the laws had changed, how nothing could be done. That's it. It's a done deal. Get used to it. And half the people, admittedly on the Globe side, who were debating me about it, didn't know what was really going on. Not a surprise. They hadn't looked into any of it. They started Google searching it based on what I was telling them I did know. And then they'd be like, oh, yeah, COVID 2020 Act, yeah. And it's like, yeah, you just Googled it, right? Found the headline that it exists. But, whether or not they took that information and did something useful with it is kind of irrelevant to me. I don't care.
I think that was a Saturday.
Doubt it.
Yeah, I thought it was the end of like Ballbusters or something.
No, it was a show. It was one of these shows. It was an after show.
Hey, Virus, you're going to come on? I'm waiting for you to talk to Chocolate. I got work to do.
Hey, I was just waiting for y'all to call my name. And unmute me.
Right,
How y'all gonna have me muted on the live show and talk shit behind me?
I didn't mean to have you on mute. I unmuted you at some stage. Did you leave and come back?
No, I didn't.
Well, I unmuted.
I wasn't here when y'all first started, I don't think.
If you didn't leave, I unmuted
But
you.
I was muted.
So, okay, I unmuted
It's okay.
you. My memory's not that bad, Virus. I did unmute you, and it will be on the stream. I recorded me unmuting you. But if you're saying you weren't, fair enough.
Yeah, I couldn't speak. I heard my name being called. You know, when I hear my name being called, I gotta say something. I just couldn't speak.
Fair enough. I don't tend to see
know
you as
you can't speak.
I don't tend to view you as a liar. I'll take that at face value. If you couldn't talk, you couldn't talk. My bad if it was my bad, but let's move on. You still here, Chocolate?
Hey, it's all good, Nathan. We cool.
Thank you. Good to know. You there, Chocolate? Or are you busy working? This might not get off the
What's up,
starting
Chocolate?
blocks.
Yo,
You had something to say, Chocolate?
No, I went into the live chat for a few seconds and I saw you typing, how you handle the panel well, and we don't know what we're talking about.
At least get my words right.
And all that. Yeah.
My exact words. This was a quote. Handling the panel was easy. That was my exact words. Nothing added, nothing taken away.
How did you handle this again?
I said handling the panel is easy, not I handled the panel easy. Get my words right.
So you handle the panel easily. Okay. What does that mean exactly?
Oh my God, get my words right. What did I just say? Repeat it word for word. What did I just say?
You handle the panel well.
God,
If you stop eating with all that food in your mouth, we might understand what you're saying.
Exactly.
He's
Get
probably
civilized.
I didn't even notice. I thought that's just how he spoke.
handle being on the panel well. That's what he's saying.
Let's just say
Not that
let's
he
just-
handled us. It's just that he's okay doing this compared to others, I guess.
let's
Right?
welcome a couple of guests. Hello,
No,
Adam.
golly, Arwen, you cannot put two and two together when it comes to me. Please stop doing that.
Yes, fair enough. Don't divide his thoughts. Just 1 second. I just want to say hello to a couple of new guests. Hello, Adam, and hello, Quantum Eraser.
Afternoon. Who's handling who?
What's going on?
Who's
Let
handling?
me just update Adam. Hold on. Let me answer him. Virus is handling all of us. According to him.
He's not handled me.
Oh, God.
Okay, Virus.
I feel the same way, Arwen. I feel the same way, Arwen.
There's virus out there. Okay, we have a bolt and a screw. What direction does the bolt go in the screw?
I was sharing that with the drivers this morning, John.
What direction do you turn the bolt onto the screw, Virus?
I'm sorry. I got distracted by the first statement. Hey, say that again. If you're asking me a question, repeat it.
Yeah, you got a bolt and a screw. What direction, clockwise or counterclockwise, do you turn the bolt onto the screw?
Depending on which way the threads are made.
Oh my God, you numpty dipshit.
Yeah, hold on. I fell for this too.
You know you can have counterclockwise and clockwise threading, right?
You're a moron.
You know that, right?
Thank you. Can you continue? Can I have him continue?
It's how my yo-yos work too. I actually have some that are actually reverse threaded too. I have all type of yo-yos.
What?
Cool. Anything else you want to add?
A yo-yo, really?
Can I answer?
They have some that screw in clockwise and some that screw in counterclockwise.
But Julio, yes, you may. Hold on.
It's a yo-yo.
Hold on, everyone, hold on. Whoever was that Julio that says, "Can I answer?" Who is it that just said that?
Oh, it's Mailman.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so the question was, how do you, or which way you rotate a screw to a bolt? Is that the question?
Yes.
Hold on. I thought you were screwing it into the... Okay, never mind. Go ahead.
No. Moldman, hold on. Moldman, just hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Go ahead, Virus. What were you saying?
No. You go ahead. Y'all good.
No. What were you...
I probably misunderstood the question.
No, I said...
So y'all go ahead.
I may be incorrect, but I detected a glimmer of you recognizing the error here. Just try and go through it.
Yeah, I was thinking that you were screwing it, like screwing the bolt into the screw, or vice versa.
Okay. And which way would you turn it?
Depending on which way you make the threads.
Okay, it's
But
okay.
I still don't understand.
No, I was wrong. It's okay. Moldman, carry on.
Okay, so first you need a drill bit to like make a small hole to the bolt that you can screw the screw in.
Yeah.
Just give me a second. Go on, Virus.
He still won't get it.
Right. You see the problem, Virus?
I gave you a little bit of a hint there.
That was an epic
Moldman.
Just the right amount.
wait on me.
Hold on, Virus. I just want to give credit to Moldman. That was just the right amount of hint as well. Great.
Yeah.
I was doing this, and my son's doing his mock exams, and I was telling him off last night, Nathan, for not bloody reading the question properly.
Exactly.
To say, I totally fell for this as well. So,
I'm not.
Admittedly, I then figured it out pretty quickly, but you know. Can I just put him out of his misery?
No. What? Ask the question again, because I'm probably misunderstanding the question.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yes. Everyone quiet.
I'll ask it again. You have a bolt and a screw. Which direction, counterclockwise or clockwise, do you turn the bolt onto the screw?
Why are you turning the bolt onto the screw? Why don't you do the screw onto the bolt?
Okay, either one. Screw onto the bolt. Which direction with the screw? Counterclockwise or clockwise?
I can tell you don't work.
Oh.
Yeah, the only time I've ever had to do this when I had to take a bolt out of I had a chopped off bolt that I had to drill into in order to get it out. What was the only time I've ever done this?
And what was hold on? What was the bolt? What was the bolt? Hold on. What was the bolt threading into?
A bike.
That's not what I mean. What was on the other end of the bolt? Was it a screw?
Nothing. It's chopped off.
Yeah, but was it a screw that it was originally bolted into?
I guess the bike was threaded. There was no. It's just threads on a bike.
Maybe.
No, it was the foot pedal. The foot pedal snapped off, and the bolt was still trapped inside of the bike. So I had to drill into it to get it out.
Right. So you drilled into the original tap. So the bolt was going into a tap, right?
Just tell a retard.
So was the bolt going into a screw?
No.
So if it was going into a screw, which way would you turn it?
It wasn't going into a screw, and I wouldn't have turned it if it was going into a screw.
Right, there's the moment. There's the moment. Why wouldn't you be?
Say that again.
Why wouldn't you be turning the bolt into the screw?
It's a bolt. It's not a screw. It's not a point.
Right, this is nuts. Let's move on.
Very good.
This is nuts.
How cool are you, Virus? Have you literally never screwed on just a bolt? Dealt with that? It's like
Every bolt I ever messed with doesn't have a point.
Yeah,
Point.
you
What?
do realize that pretty much all bolts are the same. There are very unique exceptions for specific things, but
Hold on, I think
right?
I've thrown him with the word
Yeah, I
tap.
believe
He's
that.
thinking of self-tapping screws now, I think. Am I wrong? I think we're still on the wrong lines.
Mauled man got him confused.
Because I always thought no screws got
No,
a
but
point.
he
I've never had a
already
bolt with a
gave
point.
the right answer. He said that he only needs to put a screw on a bolt if the bolt is broken, that he needs to take it out.
Someone put him out of his misery, because this will go on indefinitely, and it's not reasonable.
Clockwise.
No, Arwin, my God! so you
Shut up,
think it's...
Arwin.
Hold on. You think it's righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, right, Arwin?
That's it.
Nathan, can't we just turn
Oh,
this into
straight
one?
up.
Hold on, Adam. Hold on, Adam. Hold on. Go on, Arwin. So it's
Screw
right.
on, tighten, screw off, counterclock, as it were. That right?
Oh God.
That's so convoluted, man. Righty tighty, lefty loosey, bro.
You gotta listen to it. I almost fell for it too.
We don't
Listen to the
use
question.
English sayings like that here in the
Okay.
Netherlands.
Well, learn it because you couldn't even say the other one you were trying to say. So
I don't even remember what they say in the Netherlands. To me, it's just visual. It's all visual to me. So I just remember, like, almost every time I did that. Like, yeah,
Okay.
it's like this.
Let's do it with
It's all
Arwin.
mechanical memory to me.
Let's do it with Arwin instead of Iris to save him the embarrassment. What shape is a bolt, Arwin?
Well, let's see. It's like the thing you screw on, right? It's the bolt,
No.
or is it? Then it's like a pillar with screw on it, right?
Like a tube of metal with threads on it.
Yes. Yeah, tube. Sorry, but it's not hollow.
It's not hollow, right? You took the words out of my mouth. What does a screw look like?
6-sided on the outside and circular, hollow on the inside, like a donut, but 6-sided.
No.
Stop.
No. That's
Point.
not. That's a nut.
Huh?
That's a nut.
Oh.
Nuts and
Wait.
bolts, right? Nuts and bolts. Nuts and bolts. Not screws and bolts, because they're very similar, aren't they? They've both got threads on the outside, and one won't screw into the other.
Whoa. Okay, now I'm really confused here.
Oh God.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
You people don't work, huh?
Just a trick question. It's a trick question to make you think about the direction of the thread when not appreciating that screws don't screw onto bolts. Nuts do. So it's just a trick question.
Well, I totally fell for that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, so did that.
Can we say Arwin is a
Hello.
moron too?
This is my first time on the Discord. My name's Nathan. I have an experiment that I've been putting together using a vertical gyroscope. I was able to get one from a aircraft junkyard.
Cool.
It's VG14A. Anyway, I wanted some input on how to go about doing the experiment, because the way I understand it, a rotor in a gyroscope maintains its rigidity, and so if there's a rotating platform underneath the gyroscope, then it would show that deflection. Is this the right path for this experiment? So what I did was I built a geared down system. I wish I had a video so I could show you what I put together so far.
Okay,
but,
let's just stop you. So, okay. First error that's going to get you in trouble is calling it an experiment. Your principle, your
Okay.
description of the principle is fine, right? Yes, you've got something in a inertial reference frame that's fixed. That's a spinning gyro. And as you put it on a roundabout for the sake of argument and spin it round, its frame of reference remains constant, but it may drift in the cage. That's what you call deflection. You're accurate. That's correct. The problem is you're calling it an experiment. So either we can just call it a day there and say, yeah, what should happen is you're supposed to see Earth turning underneath as a second reference frame, and therefore you see the gyro drift in its cage. That's what they claim. That's the end of that conversation. Or we can go through why it's not an experiment and talk about hypothesis construction. So which one do you want to do?
Yes, so I've already ran an initial test run running the gyroscope, and obviously the rotor does not move even over 6 hours. It should have been,
hold on, Neil.
several degrees of change. But so I built this platform or merry-go-round or whatever. I used an old microwave motor and attached it to several gearing down, kind of like a what are those ones used for the telescopes that track the stars?
EQ mount.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm gonna mount the gyroscope to that to show that the vertical gyro has the sensitivity to measure the rotation underneath it. And I contacted a inertial navigation specialist at Ohio State University, and he sent me an email back saying, yeah, this is a valid experiment. But I'm just trying to get a little guidance on
you've done it.
If I'm going down the right.
I'll point you in the direction of John Savage. So the YouTube channel's called John Savage. He's done the same thing. Not with a commercial gyro, but nevertheless, it's the same principle. And you're correct.
Mm-hmm.
If Earth turns underneath, you'd see the gyro drift. And we don't. Now, a mechanical gyro doesn't show this effect. So they move over to fibre optic or ring laser gyros. And say, there you go, it's drifting at 15 degrees an hour. That's Earth turning underneath the gyro. So you'd expect to see the same effect in a mechanical gyro, and we don't. So from that point, job's a good one. If you've already captured that, and you've put it on a Lazy Susan, geared or otherwise, and shown that it does actually show drift, because you'd expect it to. That's the principle of a gyro. And that's why they utilise it to claim it is drifting, but it doesn't. Not even the gyro does it. So job's a good one by the sounds of things. You've done everything you need. Just don't call it an experiment, goddammit you.
Okay, so, I mean, I guess I'm not understanding. What are I would have like an independent variable in this, and wouldn't that be the Lazy Susan? Or the dependent variable, once I turn that on, moving it, then I'm showing that it is an experiment.
Number one, kudos. Number one, excellent. You obviously have an understanding of the scientific method, so kudos straight away. But your problem isn't the IV, it's the DV, the dependent variable. So the dependent variable is the thing that you're studying, the naturally occurring phenomena. So what is that naturally occurring phenomena? Do we see many gyros drifting in nature?
Well, the rigidity would be natural, right? Of the rotor?
Yeah, no. Naturally occurring phenomena, that's something occurring in nature without the interference or intervention of a man, other than to cause it when you presume the cause, that's IV. But the DV is the thing occurring naturally in nature, which this is not.
Okay. Well, the claim is that the Earth is also rotating on an axis, so that has its rigidity. So the rotor of the gyro is comparable to the Earth spinning, I guess, and that's supposedly natural.
Well, no, you'd have to show me a naturally occurring phenomenon of Earth rotating if you're going to claim that's the DV.
Mm-hmm.
So no, that's they just beg the question in that regard. Assume Earth spinning in the first instance, and then go about showing a mechanical. Go on.
So it's not an experiment. I'm just trying to figure out how I should go forward with it.
Show it. Show that it doesn't drift. It's claimed it's drifting at 15 degrees an hour, and it's not.
Mm-hmm.
You show that. That's all you've got to do. Like I say, job's a good one. By the sounds of things, you've already done that.
Nathan, can I just...
All right.
Just
go ahead.
Maybe recognise
Appreciate your input.
Because you're not calling it scientific doesn't diminish the inference that you can show with it. But you're only demonstrating logic, an application, a logical conclusion. You're not demonstrating a scientific cause and effect. It doesn't, for me, as Nathan mentioned with John stuff, it doesn't diminish the conclusion you can have. You just can't use the word science with your conclusion.
Further to that, even though the application of conclusion may be based in logic, what you're describing is patently obvious. It's not drifting. Because it isn't.
I think it'd be more beneficial to call it a demonstration, because you're actually demonstrating how it's not drifting, as opposed to trying to establish cause and effect of a natural phenomena. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Nothing wrong with demonstrations that prove the patently obvious, which is we're not drifting towards or away from anything at 15 degrees an hour as we turn underneath it. That's obvious. Now, you can demonstrate that with precision if you use a gyro, but it doesn't make it science. But that doesn't diminish what it's showing. No drift. There'd be drift if Earth was turning underneath it, and there isn't because Earth isn't turning underneath it. That's the logic. The demonstration's patently obvious. It's just not drifting.
So science would be things that are naturally observed without input of manipulation from humans.
No, that's that's your dependent variable or naturally occurring phenomena or effect.
That's what he said. Yeah, that's what he said. He's correct.
Yeah, but that's not science. That's just a dependent variable.
Right. Go ahead. Say what you were going to say again, Inhole.
So science would be if we manipulate something to change a naturally occurring
phenomena. That's not what you said before.
To cause it.
That's all right.
To cause it.
Sorry, I'm just still formulating my understanding as well.
Okay, I'll give you a very brief example. You come across a boiling hot spring. It's definitely occurring in nature. Yeah, and you want to figure out what causes boiling water. So you set about figuring out what you think you need to vary to cause that to happen. Well, you heat the water. There's your cause. Now, very easy for me to say, it's already well established, but that's science. You've got a naturally occurring phenomena, dependent variable, water boiling. And you've got an assumed cause, independent variable, heat. Then you figure out how to control all of the variables around that scenario, keep it at the same atmospheric pressure, keep it at the same altitude, etc., etc. Once you've got controls, and you've got an independent variable, and you've got a naturally occurring phenomena you want to figure out the cause of, you can then go on to the experimental stage, which is actually vary your presumed cause and see if it causes the effect to happen. So heat up a pan of water.
Yes, so my naturally occurring phenomena would be the stationary Earth, and then when I put the gyro on the stationary Earth, it doesn't show any change.
No.
But when I
stop. Stop. No. Phenomena, or phenomenon, something happening. You can't say I put it on a stationary Earth. Well, that's not something happening, is it? In fact, quite the opposite. Something not happening.
Well, isn't the rotor spinning part of the also observable?
Take me to your naturally occurring gyroscope, please.
Okay, so that's the point, that it has to be natural without anything that we've built or...
Yeah, if it's something you've built, the cause is you building it. Because if you hadn't built it, it wouldn't be happening. So you don't ever put man-made anything through the scientific method. Now, that's not to say that the apparatus itself will have man-made stuff in it. It absolutely, most of the time, will have. But that doesn't mean that the effect you're studying isn't natural. It can't not be. Because if it wasn't, you'd know what caused it already, and man made it happen. Like a gyro spinning, well, what's the cause of that effect? Well, you built it and made it spin. Had you have not done that, it wouldn't be happening to study as a phenomena. It isn't. So naturally occurring in nature and your effect.
Okay. Well, thanks. I just trying to clarify some of my thoughts and putting this together, and appreciate listening to you guys and learning quite a bit.
Call back to Ohio State and tell the numpty you talk to it's not an experiment. Explain why.
But thank you for sharing that. Yes, it's, as I say, it's something that's been done by John Savage. Check him out. It's one of Adam's cohorts, if you will. So he expressed his frustration at, maybe Adam's better at paraphrasing this than I, but when he went through the process, he just got constant fundy attack from people saying, no, do it like this, no, do it like that, no, do it like this, no, do it like that. Am I right, Adam?
Yeah, it was back in the day, wasn't it? That we discussed this, really, where to deny the obvious, all they could do was critique the apparatus setup. And it kind of got a bit... I think we were saying that you kind of go back to the day and you kind of pander into their nonsensical critiques. But what you're doing there, like I say, don't just because it's not going to be a scientific experiment, to me, doesn't diminish the demonstration it can show. And I just looked at what you've got there, and it's a proper lovely unit, isn't it? This gyro you've acquired. I was just having a little look at it. It's a proper sealed unit. It's a bit like, I forgot his bloody name.
Share your screen. You share your screen, Adam. Please.
I haven't got any. Give me a second. So
it's a
VG14A gyroscope. I've looked up. So
VG14A.
Yeah, I've got a picture of it on.
It was used in a commercial air jet when I contacted the air junkyard. You know, some of these are going out of use and they're updating to the electro MEMS sort of inertial navigation systems. So some of these older technologies are not being used as much, but it's what you hear spinning up in the airplane.
One on eBay.
You can actually maybe hear it right now. I'll turn it on.
$1,200.
Yeah.
Can you hear that?
Really?
$1,200.
Yeah, not a cheap bit of kit, is it?
Oh my God! Can I see some other pictures, please? Adam. Not great.
Can the hypothesis be pure speculation?
Say again.
Can the hypothesis be pure speculation?
It is. It's a supposition.
It's not pure. It's not pure speculation. It's an educated guess on the cause of a natural phenomenon. It's a supposition.
Supposition yet to be proven and validated. That's what a hypothesis is.
I just want to offer just a little. If you want any help, get in touch. Get my details through Nathan and me and John. And like I said, I think if you are doing this, then the real guy to speak to is Rob Durham, who has done a similar thing, mounted this in his car, a similar sort of thing to demonstrate. So he'd be a guy to consult with if you are wanting to firm up your demonstration and maybe take a bit of learning from what they did over times. But yeah, I'll stick my details in.
Yeah, definitely. Get in touch with John. John Savage. Get in touch with Rob Durham, and quiz them on their presentation and what obstacles they've overcome in their comment feeds or whatever. Just so prior to releasing anything, you know what you're going to be faced with and overcome it before you release the first video. Because otherwise, the people who attack it, which they will just harp on about those original aspects indefinitely. So try and cross all the T's, dot all the I's prior to that. Get in touch with a few people if you can get Rob Durham's information. I don't have it, but if Adam can, I don't know how to put you in touch with Adam.
Hey, Adam, you'd have to put it in Discord. Is this guy in Discord, right?
Yes.
You'd have to put it in Betty's server. Is Discord? Who are we talking to?
His name's Nathan.
This is Nathan. Yeah.
Nathan, are you in the live chat?
I think so. I'm not quite sure how to use this app. I just downloaded it today.
Yeah.
I got a question.
Hold on. Before you ask any questions, I want to figure out how to get this guy the information he's actually looking for. He's come in, he's taken his time, he's divulged something that's expensive and time consuming to us. The least he can do now is actually acquire the information he needs, which is to get in touch with Rob Durham and John Savage. Those are the people he needs to speak to.
I've just sent you a message, Nathan, 465, just saying hello. So we should be in contact now. So you can message me on Discord, and then I'll get all the details, get you Skyped up and that if you wish.
So you do think this is worthwhile to present the demonstration?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally.
Just hold on a second, Ar. We want to make sure you got contact with.
Have you got my message, Nathan?
I'm on the app, but I'm.
Yeah. Well, when we hang up, it's
go,
in there. I found you, so I'll.
Yeah, I got it.
Great.
Yeah,
cool. So you're in touch with Adam. Perfect. So at this point, yeah, you'll get some useful information, more so than you've had from us. No offense to anybody on the panel, from people who've done what you're doing. So a far better verse to help you. Glad that's got through. Sorry, Arwin. Go ahead.
Right.
Thank you for
I had a
presenting it, by the way,
technical
Nathan.
spec question from the picture that Adam showed from that device, that gyroscope, I take it. Does it have pendulous vanes? Is it built with that? How old is it?
No, it's actually a vertical gyro. So it would be part of a system that would also be connected to a compass or whatever other navigational. So it's just the independent gyro within the gimbal.
What?
Is it from the IRS system?
How is it like a gyro stabilizer then?
It's just a gyro. It's just a very, very precision engineered gyro.
Okay. I didn't. Right. Okay.
And that's
well,
what the
question was
professor
answered,
from
so
Ohio
thanks.
State told me, that any gyro that's used in navigation would be more than sensitive enough to measure both rotation of Earth and also over distances curvature. So that could be an additional, I don't know if you call it experiment, but to start up this gyroscope and then drive over a long distance, and then you'd know how many degrees the gimbal should have changed over curve.
Correct. Precisely
Yeah,
as
so
Rob
that's
Durham
what Rob
did.
Durham's done. So you definitely want to speak to him. As he said, he fitted it into his car and demonstrated it doing exactly, you know what I mean, that. So
There are some challenges though, because all aircraft runs off of 400 hertz, and you have to have a 28 volt source. So I've got a power supply, and then I've got a converter that turns it to 125 AC 400 hertz, and then that's what runs the gyro. They build those transformers at the higher hertz because they can make them smaller and lighter in aircraft, and I think most military uses that, but it's not easily accessible, you know, like a 12 volt car battery.
Not at all. That's something that just by pure coincidence, one of the things that the company I work for in audio electronics for studios and domestic amplifiers and such like, one of the things the guy who run that company did was design power supplies for exactly that. Again, a really expensive piece of equipment. So I hate to be cheeky. Do you mind if I ask how much for those two pieces of equipment?
Well, I called around quite a bit, but in my total experiment, I've got about $1,000 invested.
Oh, not as bad as I thought then. For all three, for the gyro and for those two pieces of step-down converters. Basically.
Yeah, and I initially bought a first gyro that was on display at Portland State University. I got it off eBay, but I wasn't able to find the diagrams for the wiring and stuff for that, so it was kind of a fail. But it's still kind of neat to have the other one.
It's still heavy expenditure. Just, you know, it's. I'm not saying it's folly, because obviously we're all getting very excited about it, and obviously there's people who've done exactly what you're doing. So it's not like your endeavours in any way going to be diminished by us. In fact, quite the contrary. But by the same token, it's still a huge amount of money to pump into it. Certainly not the kind of cash I could pump into something like that. I mean, hats off to you.
Well, and I've also got simple sort of natural proofs like a plumb bob, you know, and a spirit level.
Yeah,
and like
absolutely.
all of these things together is a demonstrative of the nature in which we live.
Well, it's your first time on the show, Nathan, and I absolutely like your style, so I think we're going to get on very well. Brilliant stuff. With that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you, first and foremost, to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. Of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.